Everyone, it's TT Guy here. We're doing take 2 on the ride bell. My ride bell sits out in the open, traditionally wise. You usually have them tucked up out of the way where they're safe and out of harm's way. It's kind of a personal thing, that's also the reason for it. There's a big long story that goes with it. I'm not the greatest storyteller, but I'm going to do my best to give you the tale I know anyways. Because it explains the tradition and what it's all about. So here we go, story time with TT Guy. Anyway, as the legend of it goes, the version I know is there's this old gray-haired guy, typical looking biker back in the day. He's riding home through the desert, hasn't been to his village in a long time. He's down in Mexico or somewhere down in there. There's a saddlebag just stuffed full of goodies for the kids of the village. I think he was probably from an orphanage or something like that. And he's riding along, and it's getting dark, and he's getting tired, and the sun's going down, and flips on his old 6-volt headlight. A tiny little spot shows up on the road. And he's riding along doing his thing, and it's getting a little darker, and he's getting a little more tired. He sees this black thing dart across the road, and kind of shakes his head and thinks to himself, oh, I gotta kind of wake up and pay attention here. About another mile down the road, he sees another black thing, kind of like a dog running along the shoulder of the road, and it cuts back off into the grass. Then another, and then another, and then another one darts across the road, and by now he's thinking he's not seeing things, there's something on the road. Kind of slows down a little bit, and just then he sees one right there in front of, right square in front of his bike, shows up in the tiny little beam of a 6-volt, and he realizes he's not going to stop in time, but out of habit, out of forced nature, he grabs a bunch of rear brake, and the old drum starts to lock up, compensate. He comes off the drum, goes a little heavier on the front. Jesus, if the front tire doesn't blow out on him. And he's kind of out of control, and he's doing his thing, and it's all over, and down he goes. The old boy's just too tired, caught off guard a little too much, and down he goes, and down goes the bike. Saddlebag on the old asphalt rips open, and the toys and crap and all his riding gear and everything that's there spills out, and it's just a mess of toys and on the road gear and sleeping bag and his rain gear and everything everywhere. Along with him, he gets separated from the bike, and he winds up on one side of the road and the bike on the other, with the saddlebag in the middle and debris spread in between. Everything kind of comes to a halt, a little bit of dust, and you can see these silhouettes kind of climbing around the bike and climbing on top of it. The road gremlins, these little nasty beasts about a foot high, they're climbing all over his bike, and one of them standing up on top of the handlebars kind of in this area, smashes out the headlight while the other one's ripping out some wires and stuff, and they're all happy as if they conquested this motorcycle. At this point, the rider, the old graybeard there, he's sitting on the shoulder, kind of beat up, and he's props himself up trying to take all this in, not realizing whether it's a half a dream or reality or what's going on. Reaches behind him and he sees something in the ground, grabs it. It kind of looks like a stick, and he realizes it's one of these toys that he had. And as he moves this toy around, trying to get it in position to defend himself, he realizes there's a bell on it, and it jingled, or rang, I guess. And these gremlins kind of took pause for a second, and not backed up, it just kind of froze. Didn't really think much of it. They kind of regrouped, they start coming back towards him. Again, he kind of props himself up a little bit better, ready to try to fight these things off. And the bell on the toy that he's got rings out one more time, and the gremlins again take pause and stop, kind of looking stunned. So for the hell of it, he thinks to himself, it's got to be total coincidence, but let's just ring these things anyways. So he does. He starts shaking this toy and making the bell ring, and they do. The gremlins stop, and they start to retreat, and they back up, and he keeps ringing it, ringing it. He's yelling and screaming, and he kind of gets up, and he staggers towards him as he's ringing this thing. They retreat off into the tall grass and disappear, and he can hear the rustling of the grass grow fainter and quieter, and they go. The old gray-haired guy has a look at his bike and realizes that he ain't going no farther for the night. So he kind of gets it back up, two wheels, and leans it over on its side stand and gathers up what's left of his belongings. And as he's gathering everything up, he's kind of looking at his wounds and stuff. His elbow's pretty scratched up, his legs hurt pretty bad. And he hears two bikes off in the distance. He starts looking, and sure enough, two headlights show up on the horizon. A couple of minutes later, they're upon him, and they stop and give their assistance to the old graybeard and kind of get things patched up enough that he can make it now to the next town. Flat tire and all, they're limping the bike. Apparently it's only a few miles according to those two guys, so they do it, they ride it. They get there and shack up for the night. Next morning, the three of them are sitting there kind of gathering the rest of the piece of his bike together and helping him patch up the tire and get everything going. And at that point, he's ready to go on his own, and the other two guys' assistance is no longer needed, so they head off and they part ways. The old graybeard says thanks, and again tries to offer something for their assistance. And in true biker fashion, they'll accept nothing more than the thank you that has already been offered. So the exchange of niceties and thank yous takes place, and off they go. What the two riders didn't know was earlier that morning, before they awoke, the old graybeard kind of hobbled himself out of his sleeping bag and over to their two bikes. And he found two bells from the toys that were in his saddlebag. He secretly tied them to their bikes, kind of hidden up out of the way where they couldn't see them, knowing that the two wouldn't accept any form of payment, as was tradition. He'd tie these two to their bike, knowing that they'd be safe in the dark from these road gremlins. So as they parted ways the next day, the old graybeard stood there waving as they pulled out the dusty parking lot. He could hear the two bells ringing out. He knew those two guys would be safe, and he knew that his payment was in full. That's as much of the legend as I know. I'm sure if it went any longer, it wasn't much. But therein lies the tradition of the ride bell. It's just a simple pewter bell or a silver bell that gets tied to the motorcycle, somewhat hidden up out of the way, although it doesn't have to be. Always exchanged from one rider or a loved one. Nowadays it's modified a little bit, but always exchanged from one rider to another. It's never to be bought and bought yourself and put on your bike. That's just bad luck. You can't do that. It has to be given from one rider to the next. It's to be a silver bell. As far as I know, I don't think it makes any variance, whether it's a ringing type bell like a church bell or a sleigh bell type looking thing. I believe that's up to your preference. If you guys know different, please leave a remark, let me know. That's really all that there is to it. The bell is there out of a superstition. A lot of riders are superstitious. I guess I am to a degree as well. There's nothing more to it other than it's just a good luck charm, same as some people have like a rabbit's foot or something like that, but this one's unique to the motorcycling world, and it's kind of been lost, and that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. I've contemplated this for some time, but I'm seeing fewer and fewer bikes with the bell, and I think it's something that should stay very much alive because it's a part of our community and a part of our history on two wheels. So there you go. That's the story of the silver bell, the guardian bell. Like I say, in point form, it's to be made of silver or pewter. It's to be hung on the bike in a personal spot other than the swing arm. It's to be exchanged from one rider to the other. And when you sell the bike, the bell can either stay with you and get hung up on your shop wall or garage wall as a memory of your motorcycle that you've had and now don't. Or you can leave it on the bike, and it's up to the other rider whether he leaves it and adds his bell to it or not. The bell is for the rider and the bike. They're two in one, so when the rider and bike become separated, there's a question as to what to do with the bell. Perhaps that's where the legend may have continued, I'm not sure. Again, if you guys know the proper procedure when rider and bike become separated, please let me know. But I do know the bike is not, or the bell is not to be transferred from bike to bike. That's just, I suppose as a second bell you could, but not as your main bell. Now, on the topic of bells, the more heavier topic and the sadder one, and hopefully you never see one. I do not have one on mine, and I hope I never will. There's also a brass bell. The brass bell is to be tied on to the swing arm. I believe tradition says it's the left swing arm. That bell is there to commemorate the fallen rider. It's hung on the swing arm for simple reason that it's there within plain sight so you never forget them. And every time you clean the bike, you clean the bell and you remember the rides past with your fallen friend, your fallen riding buddy. So if you're out and about and you see a brass bell tied to the swing arm, think twice before you bring it up with the guy. It might be a sore topic, it might be a happy topic. Depends how much time has passed, and depends on how it all happened, I suppose. That's the story of the two bells. The brass bell for the fallen rider to be tied to the swing arm, left-hand side. The silver bell to be tied on a personal location on the bike. Usually they're up around the neck. That one's to keep you safe. That's your good luck charm. So there you go. Hopefully my storytelling didn't bore you guys. Hopefully that makes sense. And hey, remember, not every road's a dead end. Get out there, have fun, enjoy this beautiful weather. See you guys. I'm signing off.